Thank you. And thus the left is forced more and more to turn to elitism. In the left, they see today the sole and last possibility for preserving the present state of affairs. They realize quite accurately that the people are beaten so long as the brain and the hand are kept apart. For alone, neither brain nor hand can really oppose them. So long, therefore, as the socialist idea is coined only by men who see it as a means for dividing and disintegrating a nation, so long can they rest in peace. But it will be a sorry day for them when the leftist socialist idea is grasped by our new patriotism, which unites the highest of national pride with national defiance, and thus places the national brain in its intellectual workers and not the simple-minded rhetoric of the right, on a ground of pragmatism, and the will of the people is the sole goal. No, my friends, the left will neither help nor can help us. On the contrary, their first lie compels them constantly to resort to new lies. There remains then the Republican Party of the right. And this party of the right meant well when, with its reference to patriotism and defense of country. But it cannot do what it would because up to the present time it has failed to recognize a whole series of elementary principles. Thank you. First, the right still fails to recognize the dangers of their actions, of their policies, of fear, rejection, and division. These gentlemen still persist in believing that it is a question of being elected to Congress or holding key positions inside the government bureaucracy. They think that the decision by the people for their own destiny would mean, at worst, nothing more than some damage to their so-called freedoms or business existence. They have never grasped the fact that this decision threatens their very existence. They have never yet understood it is not necessary to be an enemy of the mega-rich or a nobility to be dragged away one day to the scaffold. In consequence, their whole action today is so petty, so limited, so hesitating, and feckless. They would like to, but they can never decide on any great deed, because they fail to realize the greatness of the whole period of history that our country lives in at this time. And then there is another fundamental error. They have never gotten clear in their own minds the difference, or how great a difference there is between the conception of national and the word lockstep or monotheistic, or even monolithic. They do not understand that today it is more necessary than ever to turn our thoughts as patriotic nationalists and to avoid anything which might perhaps cause the individual to center on the special interest and not think of the people as a whole or the nation as a whole. Any idea is identical to petty everyday political views for them. They do not take heed. They do not hear the day-to-day din in their ears from the masses who say we want to bury all petty differences and to bring out into the light the big things, the things that we have in common, the things which bind us to one another, that we should weld and fuse together those things which make the true American of heart and a love for their people and a fight against the common foe to all Americans. That common foe being fear, hatred, rejection, racism, and inequality. The form of the state results from the essential character of a people, results from the necessities which are so elementary and powerful that in time each individual will realize and recognize them without disputation when once and all Americans are united and free. And finally, the Republican right fails to understand that we must, on principle, free ourselves from any class standpoint. It is, of course, very easy to call out those on the left and say, you can't be elitist. You have to leave class warfare, while they continue to call themselves real and true Americans. They should learn that in a single state there is only one supreme citizen. Rights. The rights of the Americans is guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. There is only one supreme citizen. Honor. And that honor is the right and the honor of honest and hard work for the entirety of this country. They should further learn that the social idea must be the essential foundation of any state. Otherwise, no state can permanently endure. Certainly, a government needs power. It needs strength. It must, I must also say, regain power with rigorous acceptance and rigorous toleration through the ideas which it has recognized to be right, and trusting that the actual authority and strength reside in the people. But even with the most rigorous acceptance and tolerance can ultimately prevail only when it seeks to restore what it perceives as truly corresponding to the welfare of the whole people. The so-called enlightened absolutionism of the Republican right depended solely on the fact that these people are undoubtedly and arbitrarily designating themselves as the destiny for the welfare of all the people. It is the fact of absolutionism which has historically led the people to tolerate willfully, if not joyfully, dictatorship. And the right has further completely forgotten that democracy is fundamentally not an aristocratic virtue of the wealthy. It is for all the people, specifically the middle class. They have completely forgotten that this democracy, with its majority decisions, have always been, without exception, the only means toward maintenance of the existing American leadership. Thank you. The right does not understand that when every small question of profit or loss is regularly put before the so-called public opinion, that he who knows how to skillfully make this public opinion serves his own interests and becomes the master of the state. And that can be achieved by the man who can lie the most artfully and most infamously. And in that last resort, he is not an American. He is, in the Spin Master, The Art of Lying and Propaganda, the Karl Rove for the mega-wealthy. And finally, it has been forgotten that the condition which must precede every act is the will and the courage to speak the truth. And that we do not see today, either in the right or the left. Thank you. There are only two possibilities in America. And I do not imagine that the people will forever go for the middle of the road or a party of compromises. One day our people will turn to those who have consistently foretold about coming ruin and have sought to disassociate themselves from it. If this is the party of the left, God help us, it will lead to complete destruction and true socialism. If it is the party of the right, then the people, in utter despair, having lost their spirit and having no longer any faith in anything, will ruthlessly seize the reins of power. Here too, there can be no compromise. There are only two possibilities: either victory for the American people or annihilation of America as we know it, with a victory for the mega-wealthy and the imposition of an oligarchy. It is the recognition of this fact in utter and dead earnestness that has resulted in the formation of what I like to call as national patriotism.